We're talking college football. Brock Huard, ESPN college football analyst, for a couple of minutes. What do you make out of Kevin Sumlin and Herm Edwards here in Arizona? I think of any state across the country with huge matchups with Michigan State and Houston coming up away from the openers. You look at where these two programs are, Brock. What do you make out of what's going on here in Arizona this season?
You would sure love to see these two programs, if you're in the state of Arizona and a fan of either, win this weekend, to set the tone just a little bit for all of the newness, for all of the new system and scheme and teaching and philosophy. The best thing that you can do as a program to get buy-in is to win, and especially win week number one against some opponents that you line up against and say, okay, our personnel is more talented. You know, we got more speed, we got more dynamic athletes. We've recruited pretty well. We have enough pieces in place. I know there's a lot of newness, guys, but I want you to buy in, and the fastest way to buy in is to find some success. So I think for both Herm and Kevin, wins this weekend will go a long ways as to what you just said of what's to come, where it is going to get more difficult. They need to find a way to win this weekend, both of them.
What do you think on these two hires? Were you in favor? I don't know anybody that said, boy, Herm Edwards, what a great, smart hire by Ray Anderson. And yet, Brock, I've sat here and said, okay, Todd Graham averaged 4 conference wins a season the last 3 years. It was time for him to go, in my opinion. And it could have been Kevin Sumlin here, but U of A made a run at him at the last minute. Did you like these two hires? Do you like them coming into the season, or are you questioning them?
I think the Sumlin hire at Arizona is a good one. And from what I know, he was very much on the radar and I think very much considered for the Oregon job before the Oregon players had a Rudy Rudiger lay down our jerseys for Mario Cristobal kind of emotional moment that I think swayed some of the decision makers there in Eugene, which to me is never a healthy dynamic when you let the players at 18 to 22 who are emotionally connected make decisions. So I think that was very nearly his job in Eugene and would have made sense there, and equally makes sense down at Arizona. I think he will recruit well. I think he's a guy that's been largely liked by his players. Maybe a couple of the diva quarterbacks that transferred out of A&M would disagree with that, but I think he's a player's coach that has put together a pretty good staff. That, to me, is where the concern a little bit is with Herm. Not a little bit, but a lot. It's not just about the head coach. He's the guy out in front. He's the CEO, but you have to have a quality staff. You just do. And in this conference, especially where you're Arizona and Arizona State going up against the behemoth of history and tradition at USC, now Chip Kelly at UCLA, Whittingham, who is going to win 7 games a year, and maybe one year pops and gets 9 or 10, which I think could be this season up in Salt Lake City. And then, oh, by the way, up north, I've got Chris Peterson and David Shaw, 2 of the 10 best coaches in college football. That you better have a pretty elite staff recruiting, teaching, and developing. And that, to me, is where the jury is very much out on Herm down in Tempe.
As always, I appreciate your time and your insight, Brock. Thanks.
You got it, bud.